"What the hell are you doing with him?" asked the man I once believed to be my soulmate, the love of my life. I would know that voice anywhere at any time. How could I be mistaken? But never in my wildest dreams did I expect him to be related to my date. How? Why? Everything was going so perfectly. I'd had it. I was tired of dating guys younger than me who acted like they were still in high school, who were stubborn, narcissistic, and only cared about themselves. I wanted someone who could take the lead, someone mature who could handle me. For once, I want to be the one who threw a tantrum or acted like a spoiled brat. I was done being the adult in every relationship, so I did the only thing I could do. I adjusted my dating app settings to suggest older men. Well, the menu was certainly a bit different than what I was used to. I saw silver foxes left and right, men who were older, more refined, and frankly, exactly what I was looking for. It was a refreshing change from the usual barrage of younger guys trying to impress me with their latest meme or TikTok dance. I swiped through a few profiles and came across the perfect man to be my new daddy. His name was Travis, and he was just impressive. He was the alpha of silver foxes, if foxes have an alpha, with a bit of a gray in his deep brown hair, those pretty green eyes, and that muscular build. God, I was drooling, to say the least. His profile said he was 46, and everything about him seemed to scream maturity and, oh well, smoking hot. He looked exactly like the kind of guy I'd been dreaming about. I swiped right without a second thought, and to my surprise, we matched almost immediately. "I have to say, you've got quite the smile." His message blinked on my phone instantly. "Thanks. You're not looking too bad yourself." I typed back. "Oh, I don't know. Maybe I look better in person. You want to test that theory?" Sounds intriguing. Hope you're ready for a challenge." I love a challenge, especially when it looks as good as you do. His reply flashed on my screen. "Careful, Travis. Keep talking like that, and I might skip dinner and head straight for dessert." I texted, feeling bold. "Who said you couldn't have dessert first? I'm more than happy to satisfy that sweet tooth of yours." "You better believe it. I'll take my time making sure you enjoy every second of it." "Guess I'll have to see if you live up to the hype." I typed, teasing him a bit. "Trust me, Damien, you won't be disappointed. So, are we doing this?" "Oh, we're definitely doing this. Just tell me when you're ready." "How about now? My schedule's suddenly wide open. For you." God, this man. We chatted for a couple days after that. He was witty, charming, and his tone made it clear that he was experienced and knew exactly what he wanted. After a couple days of chatting, we decided to meet up. I was nervous as hell before the date, but the moment I saw Travis walk into the restaurant, all that melted away. He was everything I imagined. Tall, confident, and looking effortlessly stylish in a crisp button-down shirt that fit him perfectly. I couldn't help but notice the way people glanced at him when he walked in. He had that kind of presence, the kind that made heads turn. "Hey you," Travis greeted me with that warm, easy smile that made me feel like the most important person in the room. I smiled back, trying not to look as flustered as I felt. "Hey yourself. You clean up pretty well." He chuckled, his deep voice sending a thrill through me. "Coming from you, I'll take that as a win." We sat down at a cozy corner table, the kind with dim lighting and candles flickering just enough to make everything seem softer. I could feel his eyes on me as I settled into my seat, and honestly, I had never blushed so hard in my whole life. "You look great, Damien," he said, his voice smooth, low. "But I think you already know that." I tried to keep it cool, but my smile gave it away. "I mean, I have my moments." He grinned, leaning in a bit. "You're having more than just a moment tonight." The waiter came and took our orders. I let Travis take the lead. I mean, that's what I'm trying, aren't I? As we waited for the food, the conversation flowed like we'd known each other for ages. He told me about his travels, wild stories about trekking through mountains, sailing across oceans, and I was completely hooked, hanging on to every word. "So, what about you, Damien?" he asked, leaning in slightly. "Tell me something about you. What keeps you up at night? aside from incredibly handsome men. I laughed, feeling my cheeks warm. Well, I'm an artist, painter to be precise, so sometimes it's ideas that keep me up. Or deadlines. Depends on the day. His eyes lit up. An artist? You really have to show me your work sometime. I raised an eyebrow, leaning forward playfully. Only if you're really nice to me. He gave a slow smile, his eyes lingering on my lips for just a second too long. Oh, trust me, I'll be very nice to you. The food arrived and it was perfect, of course. Travis knew the menu so well. It felt like he'd handpicked the dish just for me. We ate and talked, and the whole time, I couldn't help but notice how attentive he was. He glanced at me between bites, his eyes always sparkling with amusement or curiosity, like he was genuinely interested in everything I had to say. After dinner, we decided to take a walk. We strolled along, talking and laughing like we've been doing this for years. At one point, I nearly tripped over a crack in the sidewalk, but Travis caught me in one smooth motion, his arms wrapping around my waist. Careful there, he teased, his voice soft but firm. Wouldn't want you falling for me too soon. I rolled my eyes, even though my heart skipped a beat. Please, who said I was falling? He raised an eyebrow, his grin widening. Oh, you'll definitely be falling soon. Unless you already have. I playfully shoved him, but his arms stayed wrapped around me, holding me close. I felt myself slipping into something deeper with him. At his every touch, my heart raced a little faster. When we passed by a fancy hotel, Travis slowed down, his gaze flickering towards the entrance before landing back on me. He didn't say anything at first, just gave me that look like he was waiting for me to make the next move. Travis, I started, but I didn't even know what I was going to say. My brain scrambled, my body already aching for him. He leaned in, his lips hovering near my ear. You don't have to say anything. Just tell me. Do you want this? I swallowed hard. Yeah, I do. Without another word, he led me into the hotel. The air between us was thick with anticipation, and by the time we had made it to the room, I was practically buzzing with energy. The second the door closed, Travis had pressed me against it, his lips crashing into mine with a heat that made my knees weak. My hands gripped my waist, pulling me close, and I melted into him, every nerve in my body on fire. You're so damn hot, he murmured against my lips, his breath warm on my skin. Been thinking about this all night. I couldn't even form a response, too lost in the way of his hands roam my body, finding every spot that made me shiver. God, Damien, he breathed, running a hand down my chest. You're perfect. He led me to the bed, and the way he touched me, slow, deliberate, like he was savoring every second, had me completely undone. No one had ever made me feel like this before. It was the best night of my life. I woke up feeling amazing, still wrapped in the afterglow of a perfect night. The sheets felt like silk and the warm body next to me, exactly what I've been craving. As I glanced around the unfamiliar luxurious room, I spotted Travis lying beside me, his muscular frame barely hidden by the sheets. He was still asleep, looking as relaxed as I felt. I decided to get up when I heard a phone vibrating on the bedside table. Curious, I leaned over and checked the screen. The name flashing on it made my heart stop. Matt. My first thought went to him, my ex. The one I thought I was done with. No, there was no way this was the same Matt. It can't be anyone. My mind raced and curiosity took over me. Before I could stop myself, I picked up the phone without thinking. I answered. Hello? I said, trying to sound casual, but failing miserably. There was a brief silence on the other end, followed by surprise. Who is this? I gulped. This is Damien. Who is this? Wait, Damien? Matt's voice came through, laced with confusion. What the hell are you doing with my dad? My brain short-circuited for a second. Your dad? The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. The man I spent the night with was Matt's father. Travis was Matt's father. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to process this revelation. Damien? Matt's voice broke through my thoughts, sounding increasingly agitated. Are you serious? What's going on? I glanced over at Travis, still sleeping peacefully, and tried to find my voice. I felt like a wave of guilt wash over me. Matt, I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. With a frustrated sigh, Matt hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, feeling my face go pale. Travis, my date, still sleeping beside me. I glanced at him, a wave of horror washing over me. This was a disaster. I scrambled to get dressed, my mind racing. I couldn't stay here, not after this. I needed to get out before Travis woke up and things got even more awkward. I quietly gathered my clothes, slipping them on as quickly as I could. I took one last look at Travis, grabbed my phone and keys, slipped out the room, and made my way to the door. My heart was pounding, my hands trembling. As I tried to keep my breath steady, I had to get out, away from this mess and away from the nightmare of my ex's father. It had been 2 weeks since the morning I slipped out of Travis's bed without a word. I uninstalled the dating app from my phone and had been trying to forget it, bury the whole awkward mess. But of course, life doesn't work out that way. I was at my usual coffee shop, just minding my business, scrolling through my phone while waiting for my order. It was a quiet afternoon. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw him. Tall, broad-shouldered, with that same confident, relaxed air about him. Travis. He looked just as good as I remembered. Maybe even better. My heart dropped into my stomach. My first instinct? Hide. I turned back quickly and strolled to the nearest seat, stooping low over my phone, hoping he wouldn't notice me. I tried to act casual, pulling my phone like I was suddenly very interested in the weather app. Maybe, if I say load, he'd just grab his coffee and go. Yeah, right. Just when I thought I was in the clear, I felt a presence behind me. I froze. Then, in a low, teasing voice, I heard, "Trying to hide from me?" I nearly jumped out of my seat, spinning to find Travis standing there, a smirk playing on his lips. His glassy green eyes were twinkling with amusement, and I could feel my face heating up. No, I stammered, trying to play it cool. Just, wasn't expecting to see you here. Travis raised an eyebrow, clearly not buying my excuse. Really? 'Cause it looked like you were trying to blend into the table. He chuckled, sliding into the chair across from me without waiting for an invitation. I let out a nervous laugh. He leaned back, still grinning. You're too good at slipping away, aren't you? 1 minute you're there and the next, poof, gone. I gotta admit, that was a slick move. I cringed, remembering how I bolted that morning. Yeah, about that. Sorry, I was just weird, you know? I didn't know how to handle it. Travis nodded, still smiling but softer now. There was a pause, a slightly awkward one, but Travis didn't seem fazed. He just sipped his coffee, his eyes still on me, and he was still waiting for me to say something else. So, I finally said, breaking the silence, you're not mad? He shook his head. Nah, not mad. A little curious, maybe. You ran out pretty fast. Was it me or just how you did it? I glanced at him, not sure how to answer that. I honestly don't know what to say. Maybe it was a mix of both. You're, well, too great, more than I used to. So far, it seemed Matt hadn't said anything to Travis, and I was beyond grateful for that. Travis chuckled softly. That's one way to put it, but I'm not a fan of running from things, especially not when they're interesting. I felt my face heat up again, and I couldn't help but smile a little. Interesting, huh? He shrugged, that teasing grin back. You make things interesting, Damien. It's not every day I wake up and find my date gone like a ghost. I shook my head, still a bit embarrassed. Well, sorry about that. You just caught me off guard. Travis leaned forward, his eyes locking with mine. How about next time you stick around? I promise I don't bite, unless of course you're into that. I laughed, the tension easing just a bit. I'll keep that in mind. We sat there for a moment, just looking at each other. It wasn't awkward as I thought it'd be. In fact, it was kind of nice. Maybe things didn't have to be as weird as I made them in my head. So, Travis said, standing up with his coffee in hand. Your phone? What? Your phone, Damien, he said and held out his hand. I placed my phone in his, and he quickly dialed a number, and the next instant his phone rang. No more hiding, he said, chuckling. He returned my phone, winked, and walked away, leaving me there standing dumbfounded, wishing things were as easy as he made them feel. How I wished he wasn't Matt's father. Even though I was the most extroverted person on the campus, I never missed any festival on the campus. They were the perfect place to find more inspiration. I was just wandering around with a friend when I saw him. Matt. He was on stage, performing some kind of wild modern dance. It was incredible. He had this fiery red hair, and he moved like he didn't care what anyone thought. Every step, every twist, it was like he was completely lost in the music. I couldn't stop watching him. He looked so free, so confident. I'd never seen anyone like that before. He wasn't just dancing. He was alive. After the performance, I tried to blend into the crowd, but couldn't help but hoping I'd run into him. Sure enough, I spotted him talking to a group of people by an art exhibit. I felt nervous, but I went up to him anyway. Hey, that was amazing, I said, trying to sound casual. He turned to me, grinning, his eyes green bright. Thanks, man. Dance is everything to me. It's like I have to move, you know? I nodded, pretending to get it. You were really into it. You made it look easy. He laughed. No rules, man. You just gotta let go and feel it. Have you ever tried dancing? I shook my head, smiling. Not my thing. I'm more of a watcher. Matt looked at me like he was thinking. You should try it. It's freeing. You forget everything and just move. We ended up talking for the rest of the afternoon, wandering around the festival. Matt talked about art like it was more than just something to look at. It was a way of living. He was carefree, full of life, and I found myself getting caught up in it. By the end of the day, I knew I was hooked. Matt was everything I didn't know I was looking for. Creative, free-spirited, and just alive in a way I wasn't. He made everything feel more exciting. By our final year of college, I knew Matt inside out, stubborn, free-spirited, and sometimes a little selfish, but I loved him deeply and saw him as my future. He was everything to me despite his flaws. His passion for dance was what made him impossible to pin down. And when he got accepted into an exclusive program aboard, it was the dream he couldn't pass up, even if it meant leaving me behind. One night, we were hanging out in my apartment when he casually dropped the news. So, I got into the dance program in Paris. I'm leaving after graduation. I was happy for him at first. That's amazing, Matt. I know how much you wanted that. But then reality hit me. Wait, you're just going to leave? What about us? Matt shrugged like it wasn't a big deal. I mean, we've had a good run, right? It's time for the next chapter. I stared at him, trying to process what he was saying. So, you're just gonna walk away? No conversation, no thought about how this affects me? He sighed, rolling his eyes. Damien, come on. You knew this was always going to happen. Dance is my life. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I can't just pass this up because of a relationship. I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me. But what about us? Do we mean so little to you that you're just willing to throw it all away? Matt stood up, running a hand through his hair. It's not about you, okay? It's about me. I've always put my dreams first. You know that. That's exactly the problem, Matt, I snapped. It's always about you. You do whatever you want without thinking about anyone else. Do you even care about me? Or was this just something to pass the time until you got what you wanted? Matt crossed his arms, his face hardening. That's not fair, Damien. I care about you, but I'm not going to sacrifice my future for a relationship. You're asking me to give up everything I've worked for. I'm not asking you to give up your dreams, I said, my voice shaking. I just wanted you to consider me in your decision, to at least talk about it before you made up your mind. He shook his head. There's nothing to talk about. I'm going to Paris. That's it. I fell silent. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All those years together, all those moments we'd shared, and he wasn't even willing to fight for us. He'd already made his choice, and it wasn't me. Unbelievable, I muttered. You're so stubborn, Matt. You always have to get your way, and when things get rough, you just bail. Matt's eyes flashed with frustration. That's not what this is. You're acting like I'm abandoning you, but I'm just following my path. You can't ask me to stay and give that up. I never asked you to stay. I shot back, feeling tears prick my eyes. I just wanted you to know that I mattered to you, but I guess I don't. He didn't say anything, just stared at the floor like the conversation was already over. Fine, I said, my voice tight with anger. Go to Paris, chase your dreams, but don't come back looking for me when you realize what you've lost. Matt gave a sad smile, but it didn't reach his eyes, and with that, he left. No big goodbye, no tears from him, just Matt walking away like he always did. I stood there, trying to make sense of everything. After all that time together, he just let me go without a second thought. Despite all better judgment, I've been chatting with Travis for a few weeks. He can be really persistent and persuasive when he wants to. Despite the awkward start, things between us have gotten comfortable, even easy. He had his way of making me laugh, and I found myself looking forward to our conversations. When he invited me over for dinner, I almost canceled. I mean, dinner at his place? That felt a little more serious than I was ready for. But then I thought about Matt. He was off in Paris, chasing his dreams, living his life. What harm could one dinner do? It wasn't like anyone was gonna find out, so I agreed. That night, I was nervous as hell, walking up to Travis's front door. I almost turned around, but then he opened the door, smiling that warm, easy smile of his. Glad you made it, he said, pulling me inside. Dinner started off great. Travis was a fantastic cook, and we talked about everything. But then, right as we were finishing up, I heard footsteps coming down the hallway. I didn't think much of it until he appeared. Matt. My heart stopped. There he was, standing in the doorway, staring at me like he'd just seen a ghost. I was too stunned to speak, and the room felt like it shrank around us. Damien? Matt said, his voice full of disbelief. What the hell are you doing here? I blinked, my mouth going dry. What are you doing here? Travis looked between us, confused. Wait, you two know each other? Matt crossed his arms, looking pissed off. Yeah, we know each other. Damien and I used to date. The air in the room got tense. Travis's face dropped, and I could see the realization dawning on him. You and my son? Used to date? He repeated slowly, as if trying to wrap his head around it. Before I could say anything, Matt scoffed. So what, Damien? You couldn't find anyone else to fuck except my dad? His words cut through me like a knife. I felt my face burn with embarrassment. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but Travis beat me to it. Matt, watch your language, he said sharply, his voice low and serious. This isn't how you talk to people, especially not Damien. Matt rolled his eyes, but he didn't say anything. The tension in the room was unbearable. I wanted to disappear, to just melt into the floor and vanish. Travis turned to me, his expression softening. Did you know we were related? Is this why you were distant? I could say nothing. I just stared at my feet with tears in my eyes. He continued in a soft voice. If I had known this is why you were avoiding me, Damien, if I had known about Matt, I would have backed off. You should have just told me. I felt a lump forming in my throat. All I could do was shake my head. I'm so sorry, Travis. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't expect any of this to happen. The awkward silence settled in again, thick and heavy. I could feel Matt's eyes on me, but I couldn't bring myself to look at him. I didn't belong here. This was all wrong. I should go, I muttered, pushing my chair and standing up. I'm sorry. Travis stood too, looking like he wanted to stop me, but he didn't. Damien. but I was already heading for the door. I couldn't face this, not with Matt standing there, glaring at me like I betrayed him. And Travis, he didn't deserve to be caught in the middle of this mess. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, I felt a wave of guilt and sadness crush over me. I shouldn't have come. I should have just stayed away from Travis. Now everything was tangled up, and it was all my fault. I was halfway down the street when I heard someone calling my name. I stopped, my heart sinking, as I turned around and saw Matt jogging after me. Of course he followed me. He always had a way of showing up when I least expected, or wanted him to. "Damien, wait up!" Matt called, finally catching up to me. He was out of breath, but his expression was serious. "Can we talk? Please?" I sighed, glancing around at the empty street. "Look, I'm sorry. I know I should have never... But I didn't know. Not until your call," I said to him, exasperately. "That's not what I want to talk about. Please, just listen to me," he said, cutting me in the middle. There was a small park nearby, so I nodded and headed toward it, not saying a word. We sat down on an old bench, the silence stretching between us. I could feel Matt's eyes on me, but I just stared straight ahead, not sure if I wanted to hear what he had to say. After a moment, Matt finally spoke, his voice quieter than usual. "The dance program. It didn't work out. I failed." I looked at him, surprised. Matt had always been so sure of himself, so confident. Hearing him admit failure was jarring. "What happened?" I asked softly. He shrugged, staring down at his hands. "I wasn't good enough. I didn't make the cut. It was a brutal program, and I couldn't keep up. Now, I've got nothing." I felt a pang of sympathy, but also a strange mix of emotions. This was the same guy who had left me without a second thought to chase his dream. Now, he was sitting here, telling me it had all fallen apart. "I'm sorry, Matt," I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, I didn't want to see him hurt like this. Matt let out a bitter laughter. "Yeah, me too. I thought I had all figured out. Turns out I was wrong." He was quiet for a second. Then he turned to me, his eyes full of regret. "I'm sorry, Damien, for everything. I should have never hurt you like that. What we had, it was special. I didn't realize it back then, but I do now." I swallowed, feeling my chest tighten. Hearing him say that stirred up all sorts of old feelings. I'd spent years trying to get over Matt, and now here he was, telling me he still thought about what we had. "Matt," I started, but he cut me off. "Sometimes I wish I could go back, you know?" he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Go back to that time and just be with you. I was an idiot for letting you go." Before I could react, he leaned in, closing the space between us. His lips brushed mine, soft and familiar. And for a second, I froze. But then reality hit me, and I pulled back, standing up quickly. "I'm sorry. I can't do this," I said, shaking my head, my heart pounding. "It's too much." Matt looked up at me, his face falling. "Damien, I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. That was stupid of me." The awkwardness between us hung in the air, heavy and uncomfortable. I shoved my hands into my pockets, not sure what to say. Matt cleared his throat, looking away for a moment before turning back to me. "Look, I don't want to make things weird. Can we at least be friends? I don't want to lose you completely." I hesitated. The idea of being friends with Matt felt strange after everything, but at the same time, I didn't hate him. I didn't want to hold onto all that anger anymore. "Yeah," I finally said, forcing a small smile. Matt's shoulders relaxed a little, and he gave a sad smile. "Thanks, Damien. I mean it." I nodded, still feeling a little shaken from the kiss. "I should get going," I said, glancing toward the street, and walked away. After that night, Matt and I slowly started talking and hanging out. He would keep apologizing and reminding me how good we were together, and it was all too soon for that. so we kept hanging out as friends. One day, we were sitting on a grassy hill eating sandwiches from the local deli. The sun was warm, a nice breeze blowing, and for once, it felt easy, like old times. We were laughing about a wild college party, and for the first time in a while, it wasn't awkward between us. It was nice reconnecting. After everything, I didn't think we'd ever get to that point where we could just hang out again. But as we talked, I couldn't stop thinking about Travis. His smile, the way he made me feel so comfortable. Every time Matt said something, I wondered how Travis would have responded. I zoned out a few times, my mind drifting back to that night with Travis. It was like part of me stayed with him, and I missed him more than I wanted to admit. "You okay?" Matt asked, noticing I'd gone quiet. "Yeah, just thinking," I replied, forcing a smile. Matt didn't push, but the more time we spent together, the more I realized I wasn't over Travis. Being with Matt felt familiar, but it wasn't the same. As Matt leaned back saying, "It's good to have you back," all I could think about was how much I wished Travis was here. I was at Travis and Matt's place. Travis avoided coming out of his place when I was there, on purpose, I guess. I was sitting on the couch, flipping through the channels, when Matt burst into the room, practically glowing. "Damien!" he shouted, throwing his arms around me before I could even react. "You're not gonna believe it. I got into another dance program." I blinked, trying to process what he just said. "Wait, what?" "It's in New York this time," he continued excitedly, pulling back to look at me. "They accepted me, and I'll be leaving in 3 days." 3 days? My mind reeled. "Wait, you're going again?" Matt's smile faltered, and I could see the defensiveness rise up in him. "Don't start this again, Damien," he said, his tone sharp. "This is a huge opportunity for me. You know how much this means." I stood up from the couch, the shock turning into frustration. "Yes, and I'm happy for you, but you're doing it again, Matt. What about all the talks about wanting to get back together and shit?" Matt's face hardened, and the atmosphere between us shifted instantly. "I'm not going to apologize for going after what I want. Not this time. You can't just expect me to give up everything because you can't handle it." My heart pounded in my chest. "That's not what this is about, and you know it. You don't think about how this affects anyone else, ever. What if I had said yes? You would still left because it's always about you and your dreams." "Here we go," Matt muttered, rolling his eyes. "You always make this about you and your abandonment issues. You're pathetic, Damien. You latch onto people because you can't stand being alone." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt my stomach twist. Before I could say anything, the front door opened, and Travis walked in. "What's going on?" Travis asked, his low voice serious. Matt didn't even hesitate. "Your little crush here can't handle the fact that I'm moving on with my life. He's acting like a child." "Crush? Wait, what?" Travis's jaw tightened, and I saw something flash in his eyes. "That's no way to talk to him," he said, firmly stepping between us. Matt sneered. "Oh, please, like you're any better. You don't even see how pathetic he is, clinging to you like he did with me when I wasn't here." Before I could react, Travis's hand snapped across Matt's face with a sharp crack. The room went dead silent. Matt stood there, stunned, his hand slowly rising to his cheek. "Get out," Travis said, his voice calm but ice cold. "Now." Matt glared at both of us, his face red with anger. "You're both insane," he spat before storming out, slamming the door behind him. As soon as he left, the weight of everything hit me like a tidal wave. My knees buckled, and I sank into the floor, burying my face in my hands. All the emotions I'd been holding in, the anger, the hurt, the confusion, came running out in a flood of tears. I felt Travis kneel beside me, his eyes resting gently on my shoulder. "Damien." I couldn't stop crying. I hated that Matt got into me, that his words had cut so deep, and more than that, I hated that everything felt so messy, so out of control. "Shh, it's all right." He tried to comfort me. I looked up at him, my face wet with tears. His eyes were soft, full of the same warmth that had drawn me to him in the first place. And before I could stop myself, I leaned in and our lips met. The kiss was slow and tender, full of everything we hadn't said in the weeks since I walked away. For a moment, I let myself get lost in him, but then reality crept back in. I pulled away, my heart racing. I looked at him shocked, but he shifted closer, pulling me into his arms. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I miss you, Damien. I miss you so much." "I'm sorry," I said quickly, shaking my head. "I can't do this right now. I just need time." Travis's expression softened, but there was a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. "I understand," he said quietly. I nodded, standing up on shaky legs. "I miss you too." I emitted my voice barely above a whisper, more than I wanted to, and headed for the door. A week had passed since everything blew up, and I'd been doing my best to keep my mind off things, but that all went out the window the second my doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there was Travis standing on my doorstep with a massive bouquet of flowers in his hands. His eyes were wide, a little wild, like he wasn't quite sure what he was doing. "Travis, what are you doing here?" I asked, my heart starting to pound. He shifted awkwardly, clutching the flowers tighter. "I don't know," he said, almost breathless. "I know this is wrong. Maybe it crosses all kinds of boundaries of wrong, but I can't take it anymore, Damien." I blinked, completely caught off guard by his presence and his words. "What do you mean?" Travis took a deep breath, his gaze locking with mine. "I think I've fallen for you, Damien. I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop missing about you. Your smile, your laugh, the way you smell." His voice cracked a little, and he shook his head like he was frustrated with himself. "Every day starts and ends with you in my thoughts. It's driving me crazy." I just stared at him, my chest tightening. I didn't know what to say or what to think. The last week had been a blur of confusion, and now here he was, saying the things I'd been too scared to admit myself. "I know it's wrong," Travis continued, stepping closer. "I know the situation is messy, complicated, and maybe I'm breaking every rule there is, but I don't care. I can't keep pretending like I don't feel this way." I swallowed hard, the weight of his words sinking in. "What I'm trying to say is, even though it's wrong, I want to do it. I want to be with you, Damien. I want to pursue you." He reached out, taking my hand in his touch warm, comforting. "So, if you'll have me, I'm right here for you. I promise I won't leave you. I won't let you down. Let me treat you right, baby. Let me love you." His voice was raw, sincere. The words hung between us, heavy with meaning. I looked into his eyes, seeing the vulnerability there, the longing. For a second, I couldn't move. I didn't know what to say, but then, without thinking, I grabbed him by the collar of his shirt and pulled him in for a kiss. It was deep, intense, and full of everything we hadn't said to each other. His arms wrapped around me, and I could feel the tension melt away as the kiss deepened. It was like everything clicked into place. When we finally pulled apart, both of us breathing hard, I looked up at him. "Yes?" I whispered, my voice shaking a little. "Yes, Travis. I want this." A slow smile spread across his face, and he kissed me again, softer this time, but just as full of meaning. I knew then, in that moment, that this was what I wanted. Complicated or not, messy or not, I wanted him. With time, things somehow got easier. Travis and I clicked in a way that felt natural, despite the awkward start. I mean, yeah, Matt freaked out when he found out, swore my ears right off, but that wasn't my problem anymore. Travis and I talked about it all, and we were just taking things slow. No big labels, just enjoying each other's company. Who knows what the future holds? I'm done overthinking everything. I want to focus on the present, and right now. Travis feels like someone I want around, so whatever happens next, I'm good with it. The end. Do you mind the age gap in love? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our rainbow force, and stay wholesome.